Larger Museum, Hyderabad, and New Delhi, and other remarkable exhibitions in St. Petersburg, Paris, Brasilia, and Antananarivo. Recognized with numerous honors, including the SARC Literary Award, Asia Pacific Excellence Award, and election to the Brazilian Academy of Letters, Sir's legacy is a testament to the power of culture, diplomacy, and artistic expression in shaping global narratives. I now request our head of the department, Professor Yadingam sir, to welcome Abhay sir and give some opening remarks. And
First of all, what an introduction. My compliment to you.
Souvenir.
This is a cherished subject. Yes.
That is the journal department of police. Longest journal in this university.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is a good thing to do. Right away.
We are really privileged to have Ambassador Abhay Kumar. So, prior to that, you guys have to ask me, know who he is. I do not know to go. I do not need to go to this. By hearing that itself, we are really thrilled and expect a lot from him.
It's a really, it means a lot.
He's not just ordinarily diplomat, bureaucrat, much more than that. Writer, architect, poet. Such kinds of personality very difficult to find. And he's in our midst today. Really, we are so grateful to you, Your Excellency, for accepting our humble invitation and come to the department and talk to all of us. We feel that we really enjoy your talk to us. And I feel that this should not be the end of the relationship. This should be the beginning.
Just the beginning.
Beginning and the days to come. We have a lot of trust in you in many ways, your expertise, your knowledge. At the same time, I believe from the university also you may need something. So we are ready to extend whatever we could from our side also. With these few words, I just want to say once again, welcome to our department. Thank you for your coming, and I hand over the time to you, Excellency.
It's a live, honey?
Yes.
So it's a live also. Okay. But for few 10 minutes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Only for the 10
10
minutes.
minutes. Okay. So let me begin, then you start.
Okay, okay. No, अभी इधर back कर लीजिए अभी.
Let me begin with thanking the head of the department, Professor, for welcoming, extending me such a warm welcome to the Faculty of African Studies at Delhi University, and for such a brilliant introduction, which is difficult to do. I am a writer and I value words. There cannot be more precious gift than words. So I am grateful. All the faculty members, the former heads of the Gajendra ji, Professor Gajendra Singh ji and Professor Shri and Professor Rashmi Kapoor ji, and all the faculty members here. And I gather that all of you are PhD students, most of you. So I'm delighted to be back to Delhi University. I am from Kirodimal College, so not far from here. And I did not have the opportunity to do PhD, but I have tried to write books, which is, I think Nalanda was more like a PhD research, with citations and references and reading lots of books to write one book. So But here I'm here to share with you my experiences in Africa, particularly in Madagascar, where I was India's ambassador, and also as well as Comoros, and also my travels throughout. I mean, to many countries of Africa. So I am. I mean, I feel that each one of us is actually an African, because human beings, our species comes from Africa. So Africa is not any other continent. It's a it's sort of mother Africa, and I mean we might have forgotten that journey, migration out of Africa, but we should always remember that we come from that continent, and it's a sacred it's a sacred place where humanity was born. So I try to find out that great journey of Africa. Uh, how has it, come to modern age? I don't know if you have read a book called it's Born in Blackness, which came I think 2 years ago, and how Africa has shaped the modern world. That's an essential read probably. But recently I have come across also a book by Jena Badawi.
History of Africa.
Yes, an African history of Africa, which is very interesting. I'm reading that book, still reading that book. But before that, I had watched the BBC series on Africa. I think there are 21 or 22. 18 episodes.
Yeah,
Already.
18
Okay.
episodes.
So all those episodes I had watched to understand more about Africa and Africa's history, and Africa's role in shaping uh, modernity. So most of us in India particularly, I mean, most of us are not aware of Africa. I mean, if you look from far away, it looks like a place which is very distant and has no. I mean, it's kind of emotionally we are not very invested in it. But Africa is a fascinating place. All the places I have been to, the countries I have visited, they sort of overwhelm you with all kind of exuberance, and originality. So, so as a writer, as a poet, my job is to observe and write. So earlier, when I was in Brazil, I had written a book called The Alphabets of Latin America, which has just been translated into Spanish and coming out next month from Colombia. So I thought that I would try to explore Africa in that way, try to understand more of nuances of Africa, uh, which which is I mean which can only come through a deeper emotional understanding of Africa, rather than studying its geography or history or culture. So what I have, I mean, I read a number of books on Africa, various African writers, to understand a deeper Africa, which is not generally spoken about, and what does it mean to be an African? I mean, how the rest of the world relates to Africa. So that's, I mean, there are many perspectives on Africa from historians, from academics, from diplomats, but I come across very few perspectives from writers and artists, I mean, of course, there are writers who have written about Africa, and I mean, my my take is obviously, informed what they have written, and it's a sort of dialogue, with them. But the period I cover, it begins with the origin of humanity itself, actually, and then it journeys through time, and from the great civilizations which have been born on the African soil, from Egypt to modern day Africa. So let me share. Before that, I had also written about Madagascar, a book called The Magic of Madagascar. So Madagascar, as you know, is a very unique land with its own flora and fauna. I mean, what you get to see in Madagascar is nothing like what you see in the rest of the world, because Madagascar evolved in isolation for millions of years, and then I also tried to connect India and Africa, because India and Africa were once connected. You know that through geography, geology, and I could not find, you know, an Indian literature or an African literature which sort of connects the two, the two I mean, the Indian subcontinent and Africa through 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 poetry. So and also includes, these islands which are between us, in the Indian Ocean. So the islands of Madagascar and Comoros and Reunion and Seychelles and Mauritius and Zanzibar, and if you know Socotra, and Maldives and Sri Lanka and all these places, including Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So I wrote a poem called Monsoon, which which transcends all these islands. And I had studied geography in Delhi University at Kiromar College, and as a geographer, I knew that monsoon originates somewhere near Madagascar. So when I was posted there, I thought that this is the best time for me to write a poem which sort of travels along the path of monsoon, and reaches all the way to the Himalayas. So the poem travels along the path of monsoon and takes you from Madagascar to the Himalayas. And I mean, it's a love poem. So love and nature, these are the only two eternal things. The rest of the things are all ephemeral. So the emotions, uh, so uh, uh, so I have used the same device which Kalidas had used. After to write this poem, I ended up translating him, two of his poems, Meghdut and Ritu Samhar, or Ritu Samharam, Meghdhutam, and so this is to sort of create a poetic thread connecting India and Africa through monsoon. And now coming to the alphabets of Africa. So this is my latest book, which will come out only next year, published next year, and this is a book of, I mean, uh, book that takes you alphabetically across Africa. So it begins with things like acacia. The acacia tree probably would be a very symbolic tree of Africa. And how many of you know what does Addis Ababa mean?
Flower.
Only you know. It means a new flower. And have you heard of Amboseli? So or Aksum? Aksum, you already know.
Empire.
Yes, the history ones. Do you know the argan tree? Right. So it takes you along these. It's alphabetical. So it also, in a way, it's not chronological. It covers the whole time period, but it's not like chronological. It's alphabetical, and that's why it's called the alphabets of Africa, and not alphabet but alphabets. Because you have more A's and more B's and more C's, and each one of them taking you towards different tangents. So I'm sure you all know about the Berlin Conference. Yes. So let me take you to some of these. So I begin with this poem uh, uh, called it's called Light Light of Africa, and its light aspires to pierce through the darkness of hatred and ignorance. Learn about Africa, her rich heritage and traditions, music and dance, colors and cuisine. Don't burn in the hellfire of ignorance, screaming horror, horror, horror. There is beauty and wonder awaiting to startle. Open your eyes, heart and mind. Africa is everywhere. Africa has everything you can dream of. It has the power and magic to lead you out of the long, deep tunnel of darkness into light. Come, shade your ignorance, bask in the light of Africa. So, this is, you heard, if you have, there's a line, phrase there, horror, horror, horror. You know about that phrase? Anyone of you? So that's the beauty of literature. It's sort of a dialogue with Joseph Conrad, who wrote the book The Heart of Darkness, and he uses this line in the book, horror, horror, horror. So it's a it's a it's a dialogue. Anyway, let me read some of the poems uh, which I think can give you a glimpse of Africa. Uh, it's for example, have you? I mean, you know about Ramses II, and there's a famous poem written on him by P.B. Shelley called Ozymandias, and uh, and how many of you know about Chinua Achebe? All of you. Right, things fall apart. But where does the things fall apart come from? That phrase, where does it come from? No, things fall apart. That phrase also comes from somewhere. That's a dialogue. I mean, it's sort of a literary dialogue. So things fall apart come from a poem by, from the full poem is called "The Center Cannot Hold." Things fall apart. It's a it's a poem by an English poet, William Butler Yeats. Yes, the second coming. So, so here is a poem about Chinua Achebe. I am the eagle of Iroko. I grew up listening to the stories of tortoises. Snippets of conversations of my evangelist father with an African wizard who traveled all the way to China to find a lamp. Dressed in a traditional Igbo dress, I talk of world literature, my library full of books, my writing desk cluttered, my eyes reflective and serene, my composer poised and calm. When I whisper, things fall apart. Birds from all corners of the globe perch on the giant Iroko tree to sing the song of freedom, lifting the spirit of millions breaking through prison walls. I'm wounded in a nearly fatal road accident. The great Iroko tree falls down, its trunk still alive. I move in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, lost in my thoughts. As far as I could remember, I loved stories of all sorts. Stories of the tortoise and the wizard, stories of white men and women. Then one day I came across this old African saying, until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And began to write the story of the hunt, the agony, the travel, the bravery, even of the lions. And so, for example, some key figures. Have you heard of the first first African poet? Uh, who is, who is the first African modernist poet? Joe Joseph Raveri Velo. He's considered to be the first modern poet of Africa, and yes, he comes from Madagascar. And or the griots, griots are, yes, yes. So so all these, uh, I try to, or Mansa Musa, for example, I mean, Africa is full of heroes, you have you heard of Mande Charter? Yes. So, so you already know about it, and that's why I thought that, it would be so good to share this with you. And because very few people know, uh, generally people don't know about these things. So a book on Africa, is a great way to 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 bring awareness about what is Africa and what are the alphabets of Africa. I'm sure you have read about Malik Ambar. Now we are coming to. So I have written about Malik Ambar. Let me read that poem to you. So Malik Ambar was, as you must have read, the most hated figure in the Mughal court. And there's a painting where you see Jahangir, using the arrow to, at the severed head of Malik Ambar. And not only that, but Ambar and there's a connection between Malik Ambar and Shivaji as well. So, so here is a poem on Malik Ambar, because he's a great son of Africa, who has directly impacted Indian history. But very few are aware of his power and his, I think only those who study history, they know about it. Common people, I think, are not very much aware of the role Africa has played in India's history. So here is a poem on Malik Ambar. This is a description of Malik Ambar by Mutamid Khan, the surrogate diarist of Jahangir. He had no equal in warfare, in command, in sound judgment, and in administration. History records no other instance of an Abyssinian slave arriving at such eminence. And here's the poem. Born at Chapu in Ethiopia, sold to the slave traders, I was taken to Mocha in Yemen, then brought to Baghdad. Converted to Islam, I became Malik Ambar. Sold again and taken to India to serve as a mercenary in the Deccan, in the service of Peshwa Chengiz Khan. I was one among thousands of Habsis, hired to protect his Nizam Shahi Sultanate. I was set free only after his death. I got one of my daughters married to a royal scion and became the de facto ruler of Ahmednagar, employing Marathas and Dakhnis in my army, making Maloji Bhosale my trusted aide. Generals after generals were dispatched from Delhi to overpower me. But I stood as an impregnable wall between the mighty Mughals and the Deccan, employing guerrilla warfare, gathering greater land revenue. Jealous Jahangir prefixed my name with choicest cuss words and asked Abul Hassam to paint him shooting arrows at my severed head. Shivaji honored me with his epic poem Shiva Bharat, calling me as brave as the sun. I rest in peace in my blessed Deccan, in the valley of saints in Khuldabad, watching Khadki flourish, the fort of Janjira formidable as ever. So here you heard of Maloji Bhosle. He was grandfather of Shivaji, and he was a trusted aide of Malik Ambar. And Khadki is a city which was renamed Aurangabad, and now Sambhajinagar. And Janjira, a marine fort, both were founded and built by Malik Ambar. So you see how interesting history is. It's much more complex. And there's a huge role of an African in Indian history. So now a poem about, the book does not only talk about, about these alphabets, but also personal experiences. For example, here is a poem called, which is one of my favorite poems, called Madagascar Chameleon. It's about a chameleon in Madagascar, because Madagascar is full of chameleons of all kinds. You will find there amazing species diversity. He had fallen down from a tree, perhaps meeting his end. I had seen him a month or two ago. On the 10th, it had alerted me of something falling in the morning. I had thought it must be a fruit. Then in evening I saw him lying on the ground. He was large and regal, his eyes following me carefully. I kept gazing at him in awe of his splendor. He was the same Ostlet's chameleon I had seen about a year ago, reclining on a tree in my orchard. He must have grown old, I thought. I wanted to save him from getting hurt, from the tennis ball, so I gently tried prodding him to go across the fence and camouflage in the green trees. where no one could see him. He remained still for a while and then climbed the fence and disappeared. Weeks passed by before I saw him again, lying on the ground, on the other side of the fence, completely white and motionless. He still looked majestic. I thought he must be resting, pretending he's dead. The next day I went there again to see if he was gone, not finding him there at first glance. I was relieved. Then I saw him lying on a bed of foliage. Fallen leaves had given him a natural shroud. Birds singing, wind caressing him, gentle sun rays balming his body. Here rested someone whose life and death I could envy. Uh, Maybe I should take you to you know to one poem which
Is he working? Is he? Check. Yes.
this poem is called In Light of Africa, and it is, where you see darkness, I see light. Light of Ubuntu, light of Alexandria, light of Timbuktu, light of the great Zimbabwe, light of Benin bronzes, light of Luxor and Carthage, light of Lalibela, light of Chinua Achebe, light of Mandela, light of John Joseph Raveri Velo, light of Senghor and Soinka, light of Zara Yacob, light of Diababa sisters, light of Mansa Musa, light of Hete Feris, Hatshepsut Nefritari, light of Hel Selassie and Rastafari, light of Tutu and Ben in Wonwu,